Thank you as ever for joining this week's session. And we're going to look at a strengths-based approach to parenting. We've spoken about strengths in parenting and looking for the good on other sessions. And this is just expanding much more broadly on that. We'll delve a lot deeper into ways that you can actively spot your strengths and strengths in your child. So I'm going to start with a story. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this. It's Minecraft, and it is a computer program which is very, very popular among young people. And my son was a bit of an avid fan. And on more than one occasion, it'd be a busy Saturday. I'd go out, I'd say, finish, do your homework. We're going out tomorrow. And I'd come back only to realize that he has spent the entire day on Minecraft. And I'm like, what about your homework? And this isn't very good for you, 4 or 5 hours on this. And I would go into a rabbit hole of identifying all of the bad stuff that he did. And on this particular occasion, he built this house. And I didn't want to know. He wanted to show it to me. He was really, really excited. I started getting cranky. He started getting cranky. And you know how it pans out. The weekend gets ruined. He doesn't do his homework and everybody's miserable. And I'm sure you all have heard this story. And what's really happening here is, as Lee Water calls this, the dirty window syndrome. And basically what this means is a clean window doesn't attract your attention. You're looking outside, you see it all the time. But when the window becomes dirty, you notice the dirt. And this is quite similar with your kids. We're failing to see that the rest of the window is actually clean, and beyond the window is a beautiful landscape. But we're focusing just on the dirty spot. When our kids are being really good and things are going well, we take it for granted and we don't really notice it so well. But when things are going badly or things are going wrong, that is essentially a spot of dirt on the window. And our attention is drawn right into that dirty spot. And the dirt on the window at that time was Minecraft for me. And this started growing this small spot into a massive stain, and it gets magnified and overshadows the positive qualities, which is creating the perfect storm for conflict and feeling anxious about his future. If he doesn't do his homework, he's going to get in trouble, he's going to get bad grades, etc., etc. So what we're going to look at today is strengths-based parenting, what it is, how we can lean into it, what it offers, and also explore a process of helping you apply strengths-based parenting by leaning into character strengths and understanding character strengths. And we'll end up with some activities where you can start to nurture these character strengths within your own family, yourself, and with your children. So going back to the story, the great news is by learning to shift your attention to your child's strengths, and that's essentially the clean part of the window, you can override the negativity bias. And I've mentioned this before, that we have an evolutionary process in us of trying to keep ourselves and our family, our close ones, safe. And that was great when we were running away from saber-toothed tigers, but right now we don't have that. So our negativity bias is constantly looking out for things that we don't want to face. And this can be quite counterproductive. So what we want to look at is the clean part of that glass. And when I did eventually calm down, he took me around the house. And in the house, which was 3 stories, he had built a yoga studio for me. He had made 2 horses. The yellow one is mine and the blue one is his dad's. He had created a massive kitchen with an island. Basically, it was incredible. And I was like, wow, this is so good. And I didn't want to see it because I was focusing on the dirt. There's a great quote from Tom Rath that if you focus on people's weaknesses, they lose confidence. At a very basic level, it's hard for us to build self-confidence when we are focused on our weaknesses instead of our strengths. And it can be quite damaging when we notice weaknesses in somebody else that maybe they don't see in themselves. So it's about how to position them to empower them. If you're asking, what are strengths? There's broadly 2 categories of strengths, talents and character. And ultimately, talents are those that are performance-based and are observable. These are the outside things that we see. And then we might look at the character strengths as the inside stuff. So they're the personality-based ones. They're very internal. So talents might be sports, drama, good at academics, good at problem solving. And character strengths look deeper at kind of the bravery, the creativity, the humor, perseverance. And talent and character go hand in hand very often. So, like Edison had perseverance, Neil Armstrong had bravery, John Lennon, creativity. So, when we're looking at the benefits of strengths, they benefit both you and your child. And for you, if you're helping your child see and use their strengths, you can start to enjoy increased positive emotions because it's the gift of giving and you're receiving. Self-confidence, higher satisfaction with life, lower stress levels, better relationships, and better parenting efficacy. So that means you are parenting in your best way. You're showing up in the best way for yourself and your child. But your child also gets the benefits of this. They get all of the above benefits, and they can also get better grades. They're meeting homework deadlines, and there are less behavioral problems. And we've spoken again about the ripple effect. There's studies that show that only parents that are doing strengths-based training, so they are the ones learning these tools. Just by them learning it, their children are having fewer behavioral problems. So that's quite extraordinary. And it can be viewed in two ways, that the ripple effect, our mood is being lifted up, and in the same way their mood is being lifted up. In the same way, we as parents are often happier when our children are happier. So it works both ways. But it also could be our perception. So it means we're no longer looking at the dirt or the dirty window. Those of you who are new to this today, my name is Zena Hicks, and I am a positive psychologist and coach. But most importantly, I have 2 boys with ADHD and other associated conditions. And I got into positive psychology because my personal background is when I was raising them when they were very little, kind of 2 and 4, I was not coping very well. And I was looking at the dirty window all of the time. And when I came across positive psychology, I did this to help me. And as a turn, all of the problems that I was perceiving within my children had, in my eyes, disappeared. They still have ADHD. You don't get rid of ADHD, but you can position it in a different way, position it for them and position it for yourself and your parenting. Positive psychology is an amazing tool that helps you focus on what is right as opposed to what is wrong. And character strengths are one of the foundational principles of positive psychology. So it's looking at that strength and building on the strength. And it doesn't mean ignoring everything else that's bad, but it's about seeing it differently and about reinforcing the good. So when someone does get feedback on the sides that are less desirable, they're able to absorb it and take it, reflect on it, and respond to it. So you're probably sitting there going, how do I do this though? And that's what we're going to look at today. So I asked on LinkedIn on Monday to post your character strengths. So this is asking people who are business professionals, what are your character strengths and how do you actively pursue them on a day-to-day basis? And half came back and were very confident in sharing their character strengths, and others weren't quite sure what I was asking. And this is really, really interesting. And some had never thought about it. Some found it really hard to differentiate between what a talent is and what a character strength is. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into that. So how you can start this process is by learning and become curious. And curiosity is also a character strength. What don't you know? And character strengths can be evaluated from awareness of yourself, or you can do various different online surveys. There's the strengths profile surveys, Clifton Strengths, Values in Action. I'm going to explore values in action just for a moment. And this is very aligned with positive psychology. And it begins with looking at a person's virtues. A virtue frames the basic level of our personality, and these guide our behaviors and influence how we interact with the world. And by understanding these virtues, we can help to build our character strengths. And it shows you some of the different character strengths that are associated with these virtues. And these are our 24 character strengths. And every single person in the world has these 24 character strengths. That is assessing not only someone's personality, but also these characters that pretty much stay stable throughout our lives. So is there anything here that jumps out at you? Creativity, curiosity, love, kindness, forgiveness, social intelligence, leadership, gratitude. If you could just pick 3 of these, and what we're going to call them is our signature strengths. And if you think of the essence of a signature strength, ideally, the strength feels essential to you as a person. It's also effortless. So when you use this strength, it feels very, very natural to you. And it's energizing. You feel energized by it. It uplifts you. It makes you feel happy and balanced and able to take on more. Could you pop into the chat, if you don't mind sharing, 3 of these character strengths which you most resonate with? Perspective, love of learning, zest, judgment, humor, hope, prudence. That means being careful before acting, humility, appreciation of beauty, forgiveness, fairness. Anybody like to share their 3 character strengths? Wonderful. Zest, social intelligence, hope, wonderful. Appreciation of beauty, kindness, fairness. That's great. So then when you've identified your character strengths, when you feel that, that kind of sounds like me, I can really resonate with that, then look at how to spot these strengths in others. And if you are struggling, and that's perfectly okay, struggling, as I said, half of the people that I spoke to on Monday struggled to identify their character strengths. And if you are struggling to identify with your own character strengths, it may be likely that it's going to be much more challenging to be able to help your child spot their character strengths. So an activity you could do either for yourself or with your child is to look at role models. So name a fictional character or inspiring person and go, okay, what are their strengths? What can I see? What are they doing well? And is that a talent or is that a character strength? And then you can go one step further to look at how they use these character strengths to overcome challenges in everyday life. And it's really good. You could do it in a movie. So you can see what their character strengths are, see what their challenges they're overcoming, because every movie has a challenge to overcome. And once you've identified how to do that, then you can start to identify your own strengths using the exact same process, or sit down with your child and understand their strengths. And then when you have some idea of your character strengths, you might decide, how do I use these character strengths in my day-to-day life? What are my examples of doing that? And if you want to mention in the chat, just pick one way of using your character strength. What is it that you do on a daily basis that resonates this strength? And you can ask yourself, how do my character strengths help me communicate? Looking at your child, you could only spot it with them without even involving your child. You could, from a distance, spot their strengths. Watch them carefully. What strengths are they using? How do they use their strength in relation to mine? And how can I encourage this strength? We've worked with quite a number of young children in Positive Education UK and Ireland, and we always do the strengths assessment with them, the questionnaire version. And it's incredible that probably from the ages of 8 until 11, we've got almost 80% of the young people with love as one of their top character strengths. And it represents their desire for love and the fact that they really want to give love. So again, if you're struggling with identifying your child's character strengths, maybe starting with love and seeing where that takes you. I'm going to go back for a moment and I'm just going to share the character strengths list on request. You can have a wee look and you might want to take a screenshot. So character strengths: creativity, curiosity, love, fairness, prudence, hope, judgment, honesty, kindness, forgiveness, humility, humor, love of learning, bravery, social intelligence, self-regulation, appreciation of beauty, spirituality, perspective, zest, teamwork, leadership, gratitude, and perseverance. Now, I've done this assessment in pretty much lots of different assessments, Clifton Strengths and VIA and lots of other ones. And my character strengths come up the exact same in every test. And my character strengths are curiosity, love of learning, and humor. I've got a lower strength, and we often don't focus, because we're looking for the good, we don't focus on our lesser strengths, but they do help us inform where we might need support. And my personal oversharing here, maybe, lesser strength is self-regulation. It's way down the bottom of my list, because everybody has a combination of these and they'll have them in different levels. And self-regulation is way down the line. Now, that doesn't mean I can't self-regulate. What it means is it takes a lot of energy from me to do it. So let's say if I was deciding to give up chocolate for a month or 2, I could do it, but I would need to have a lot of support around me and motivation and know why I'm doing it. So keep that in mind Which of these strengths might you find really challenging to do? And you can start to put in different options to support those strengths. Self-regulation happens on every test I do. I'm like, seriously? Okay. So using your strengths. There's lots of other kind of activities you can do. You can practice, let's say, being really kind to a neighbor or speaking to someone you don't normally speak to. Where are you using these strengths? And also maybe where are you overusing these strengths or underusing these strengths? So let's say you are a very kind person. So kindness might be one of your top strengths. But when you're overwhelmed and busy, you may not come across as overly kind because you're too busy to be kind to yourself, which puts a barrier into you being kind to others. Or you could be overusing your kindness. So you're so kind to everybody else and you give everything away and you don't keep any for yourself. And remember, these strengths aren't always about what you're giving out. It's also what you're keeping in. So being kind to yourself reinforces that strength. So you're naturally able to be kind to others and you're less exhausted by it. So the third final way of embracing strengths is to practice. And like any of these interventions, the more you do them, the more you embed them, the more they become positive habits. Are you creative? Are you kind? Do you feel a lot of gratitude? Are you funny and humorous? Do you have a love of learning? Are you brave? Do you love love? Does that energize you? Are you curious? So it's seeking out as many opportunities as you can to implement your strengths on a daily basis, no matter how small. Let's say gratitude is one of your strengths. Saying thanks to a stranger who does something kind, which is so easy to do. Or reaching out to someone with a gratitude letter. So writing to somebody, maybe they did something great many years ago and you'd like to thank them in a letter. You might volunteer for a charity or help an elderly neighbor. Have a think about what this means to you. It'll be very personal. But be realistic. Not everybody's life is full of unicorn and rainbows. And the thing about positive psychology, it is not about making you happy all of the time and having your children happy all of the time. It's just simply not really what life is. And you have no control over that because you have so many different factors coming in from all around. And remember, we have this natural negativity bias that helps us survive in this world. Look out for danger. And our strengths are there to support us and help us thrive. So if you're helping your children to harness their strengths, to identify and harness their strengths, and using language like, oh, I love how you were so kind to your brother, even though they weren't very nice to you, or thank you for thanking me for your supper or your dinner. And things like that is constantly using these words, encouraging them to look not at their talents, but at their character strengths. And it's so easy to say, oh, you did so great in that maths test, you're very bright. But actually, we want to be saying more about, oh, you really persevered. And I know that wasn't easy for you and your perseverance has paid off. You've done so well in that exam. So it's building on those strengths. You're not going to lose anything by embracing this and adding this as a practice within your family. And I'm going to leave you with a quote from Leah Waters, who dedicates her life to this. So Leah Waters says, our negativity bias helps us to survive, but our strengths help us to thrive. Showing our children how to harness their strengths is a key tool for their happiness and a recipe for effective and enjoyable parenting. It's not a cure-all, but it's most definitely a win-win. So that's it for this week. If you want to talk to me or meet up or learn more about character strengths or anything else I talk about, just please book in a virtual coffee with me anytime. I also want to flag a membership that I have, which looks solely about positive psychology and building you up as an individual to support you so you are able to have that ripple effect. And we use that ripple effect not only in parenting, but in leadership and lots of other different ways. More information there if you need it, or just get in touch with me. Next week, we're going to speak about really exciting topic, which I love, and that's about becoming the placebo for your child. And this is going to look at that ripple effect and the impact that we have as individuals on everything around us. And that's people, our perceptions, the challenges that we have to face and we often resist. It's putting a little bit of perspective into how we show up affects the reality we see. if that makes sense. So I look forward to talking more about that. So it's harnessing an intentional power of influence. I'm going to open up to questions and ask any questions which you like on today's content or anything else.